This year, I truly feel like I belong. I didn't qualify for this team based on other people scratching or getting injured or getting suspended for doping. I'm here because I deserve it. And I think that I am really excited about the way that I've qualified and where I am relative to the rest of the field. Last year, we didn't have a single person in the women's 1500 qualify for semis, and I think this year I would love to see 3 Canadian women in the women's 15 semifinals, and I think that we are in a position to do that.
Kate Current has a history of rising to the occasion against the best competition. In 2023, she launched herself onto the radar of Canadian track fans with her first appearance at a senior world championship in Budapest. Despite entering the meet as a last-minute quota entrant with a PB of just 4:11, she seized the opportunity before her and ran a massive 4-second personal best of 4:07. A prolific regular season racer on the circuit, she spent the next year chasing points on the professional rounds, seasoning her racing experience with matchups against international competition and clinching a world ranking invitation spot to her first Olympic Games in Paris. Yet while her methodical race scheduling had netted her back-to-back global championship appearances, it seemed to fans that the fast times to back up her newfound international credentials were waiting just around the corner. In this 2025 racing season, Kate has finally rounded that bend. After a nearly 4-second PB of 4:03.06 in Poland earlier this year, she backed it up with another 4:03 clocking just a week later, proving she'd leveled up onto a new echelon of middle distance running. Another personal best clocking of 4:02.79 would add further momentum to her build towards Tokyo. Now, with the Tokyo World Championship just days away, we catch up with Kate from the Athletics Canada training camp in Gifu, where she's putting the final touches on a season's worth of preparations, continuing to ride a wave of momentum that she hopes will once again come to a crest against the best in the world this weekend in the Japanese capital. Kate, welcome to the Shakeout Podcast. So stoked to have you with us today.
Thanks, Sean. I'm happy to be here. It's nice to be able to chat all things track with you.
You know all things track, and we couldn't have thought of a better person to grill a little bit before the World Championships. I'm joined for another edition of The Rundown by Canadian running staff writer Marley Dickinson. Marley, welcome back to the show. I know last time we talked, we were talking about who's making the team. One of the big question marks at that point was who is going to be on this women's 1500 team. There was many names in the running, and we've got one of our answers right here in front of us now with Kate.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. It's been a really cool season. I think, the way women's 1500 meter running is in Canada right now just shows you how deep it kind of has been over the last few years. And Kate, has had a fantastic season in Europe, and exciting to have her on the podcast. That's one question I have to start with, Kate, is what about that Budapest track is so special?
Yeah, Budapest seems to be a special city for you. PB there this year, PB 2 years ago at the World Championships. You've raced there a couple times this year, have you not?
Budapest is honestly my favorite place ever. I've PB'd there twice now, so it's hard not to love it. I love everything about the city, and I think that really helps the racing experience. When you're in a city you like and you're enjoying life, I think that makes racing a lot less daunting. Love the track, love the stadium. It was kind of weird being there this time around and having like 2/3 of the seats weren't there. It was a massive stadium for Worlds in 2023. I think there were like 60 or 70,000 seats. I think it's down to like 20 now. But it was still, the stadium was packed. It was a sold out event. And I don't know, I love racing in Europe because the audience and like the crowd, they get so into it. And like they walked us around the track to get to the start line. So like 300 meters walking around the track, and there are kids and adults and everyone like lining the side of the track, like wanting to get high fives and like autographs. And I was like, I feel famous. Like, this is a really good time. I love the Budapest Stadium.
Nothing like track in Europe. They do really make you feel famous. And to some degree, you are famous because they care a lot about the sport there. That track obviously must hold a special place in your heart. It seems like a lifetime ago already that 2 years ago, around this time of year, you were in that stadium as a 4:11 runner. Fast forward now, you're getting ready for your second World Championships, this time in Tokyo. You've shaved fully 9 seconds off your PB in the span of 2 years, and you're coming in as a bit of a veteran. What has been behind this astronomical rise over the last 2 years in the career of Kate Current? Take us behind the scenes. Like, you've become a bit of a mainstay now on these national teams, especially at senior world championships.
Yeah, people keep asking me like what I've done differently to like improve so much so fast over the last 2 years, and honestly, like I haven't changed anything. Our training has remained relatively the same. This summer, actually, I had the opportunity to train with a small group of university boys for the first time in a few years. So like having those training partners was really nice. I think that I've gotten into a lot of races getting super frustrated that there are so many people around me that I would just get annoyed that, people are beside me, people are pushing and shoving, but I think having the opportunity to train with boys and like learn how to run behind people, in front of people, with people beside me, it has really helped this summer in terms of like learning how to maneuver bodies.
Yeah.
But yeah, a whole lot in terms of training hasn't really changed. I think it's kind of funny saying that last year was a bit of a disappointing season when I, achieved a childhood dream of going to
Made
the
the
Olympics.
Olympics.
Yeah. But it was a little bit disappointing. I went into the Olympics with the best fitness I ever had, and I felt like I was in a really good position to PB, and I didn't run particularly well. So I finished the season kind of feeling like I was a 403, 404 runner, and I think I brought that into the 2025 season. I was like, just kind of telling myself, like gaslighting myself into saying that I'm already a 404 runner, so like I
Yeah.
need to run faster this year. Yeah, that was basically the approach for this year.
406 high last year was your PB. Didn't make it out of the rounds in Tokyo. But again, taking it in the perspective of 12 months prior to that, you were still a 411 runner. You had yet to actually even make that 2023 World Championships. 2023 Kate would have been stoked on what 2024 Kate achieved. But then 2024 Kate felt a little bit disappointed. And I love that you mentioned that you'd already kind of come to believe that you were capable of running those faster times, 404s, 403s. And it is so much about getting into the right race. And this year, boy, have you gotten into the right races, or rather, I think you've made every race the right opportunity for yourself. I think we all saw that you were on the cusp of that big breakthrough, and then finally it just seemed to click, and you vault ahead a full almost 4 seconds to 403, and it's like, okay, well, she's done it once. I always like to say the big test is, can they back it up? And as someone whose PB is an outlier from all of his other times, I never was able to back it up. But you got out there like a week later, ran another 403. You've now run 402. What do you attribute the consistency to? Has it been just knowing how to deal with more race situations? You mentioned training with more guys. Is it getting used to those physical races in Europe? What do you think has led to this newfound consistency where you're just banging out quick times really every time that the opportunity presents itself?
I honestly do think that it comes down to the quality of the field that you're in. The first 5 races that I did, I've raced a lot this season. And before the breakthrough races, I was kind of running like, I ran 406, like a small PB, and then 407 a few times, 408. And it was like, every time I raced, I was like, that just wasn't what I thought I could run. And it was getting a bit frustrating because on paper, you see those times all within 2 seconds, and it's like that's 5 races between 406 and 408, and it's like, has she maxed herself out? Anyone who sees that, I feel like that's an indication that you've done what you can. But I think it does have a lot to do with the races that I was in. It wasn't necessarily the best way to try and run fast. Like 2 of them were basically time trial style races in Ontario that were meant to be set up with fast pacers. And one thing led to another. My backup pacer bailed, my pacer bailed, my backup pacer bailed. And we were kind of just scrambling to put together a good race. And so I kind of just said, well, screw it, I'm going to Europe. Things are set up very well there. There were great pacers, great fields. And I think having, the first time I ran the 403, there were only 7 people in the field and a pacer. And that one was kind of also time trial style. It was a pacer and then one other woman and then myself. And I just kind of sat on her for 1,450 meters until I died. And so I think it is really like having fast women around you to pull you to fast times. It makes it feel so much easier.
The fast women around you seems to be something that you've learned to really capitalize on. I keep coming back to that 2023 Worlds performance. And I just remember you being so excited afterwards of you run this massive breakthrough. It's really the first time in your career up to that point when you'd had the opportunity to compete against truly the world's best athletes, like the cream of the crop. And since then, you've had some further opportunities, obviously Paris last year, and now you sit poised, ready to enter the arena again, probably with a lot bigger goals than 2023 Kate was maybe just, and I'm putting words in your mouth a bit, but probably just happy to be there at that point. And
No,
now, yeah, and now, does it feel like you're right there? You've run 4:02, and could this be the opportunity now that you've got these truly world-class athletes? The women's 1500 right now internationally is just totally going off. And like you say, it's so much about getting in the right race. Does it feel like now's the opportunity to strike while the iron's hot?
absolutely. I think the last 2 years I was just very lucky to be at the championships. Obviously, Worlds 2023, like coming in with a 4:11 PB, I think I was the slowest PB there, and I was honestly just so happy to be there. And I think that having kind of the mentality that, I have nothing to lose, I'm already going in last, really benefited me in 2023. Then I tried to carry that into the Olympics, but the Olympics are just a whole other beast. So yeah, this year I truly feel like I belong. I didn't qualify for this team based on other people scratching or getting injured or getting suspended for doping. I'm here because I deserve it. And I think that I am really excited about the way that I've qualified and where I am relative to the rest of the field. And I think this year, like last year, we didn't have a single person in the women's 1500 qualify for semis. And I think this year, I would love to see 3 women, Canadian women, in the women's 15 semifinals. And I think that we are in a position to do that.
Racing in Europe, it seems like it's something you did a lot more of this year into recent years. Do these continental tour competitions give you a lot more confidence when you are putting down times like 4:02, 4:03, and competing against people who are sort of at the same level you're at? So when you're entering, obviously, these big competitions like Worlds or Olympic Games, in the initial heats, that it's familiar faces that you're racing against instead of people you haven't competed against before?
Yeah, it is nice having the opportunity to race other women. Like the race that I did in Budapest at the end of the season, my last race before coming here, a lot of the women in that field are going to be here. And I didn't place particularly well in Budapest, but I think that knowing that I was in that race and I was competitive in that race gives me a lot more confidence going into Tokyo, because it's like I've already raced them. I know that I belong, and having that international racing experience I think is really valuable, because you get to learn kind of what other athletes around the world do in terms of like tactics. And European races are a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
I found that North American races, it was, I don't know, everyone was very polite. Like there wasn't that much. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of pushing or shoving. But then, yeah, my European races there were like elbows flying. You're lucky if you don't come out with a black eye type of thing. So, yeah, it is valuable experience for sure.
No one's saying sorry after they accidentally bump into you.
Yeah, that's a distinctly Canadian piece of track and field racing. Got to sharpen those elbows when you go overseas. You talk about the international competition, and just before that, you'd mentioned that you really feel this is a year where all of Canada's entrants in the women's 1500 have a real legitimate shot of advancing out of the rounds. The team, of course, made up of yourself and the Stafford sisters, Gabriella DeBooze Stafford, Lucia Stafford. You guys went 1, 2, 3 at the Canadian Championships. Talk about what it's like to be on such a strong team, and obviously, like we'd mentioned in the intro, a team that wasn't given to any of you. The women's 1500 is really deep in Canada right now, and the trials was one of consequence, which it isn't always the case for most distance events in this country, where you really have to bank on a top 3 finish at those trials. Do you think that knowing that the Canadian 1500 meter scene has been so strong this year has forced you to rise to a different level? Just recognizing that 404, 405, 406 probably wasn't going to be good enough to make it this year, given the depth of competition in this country?
Yeah, I think having our queen Gabriella back has just kind of forced everyone to be the best athlete that they can be. You know, it was like I came into the outdoor season and I had chased points the last 2 years. I had chased the rankings, and that's a horrible position to be in. And I kind of went into the season and I was like, it's honestly probably going to come down to getting to standard. And so my whole approach to the season was trying to run for a 1.5. Obviously, I didn't do that, but kind of going in with the mentality that, you know, it might take standard to make the team, I think really kind of pushed us all to be that much better. I mean, even like Lucia had a fantastic race at nationals, and Simone, I think, brought her PB down like multiple seconds as well. So we were all, you know, the fastest that we've been, which is, it is really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting, and even more so when you're on the inside. It's got to be tough knowing that everybody's running their fastest and still one of them isn't going to get to go. Almost any other year in Canadian history, if any one of the 4 of you had been running the times that you'd been running this year, it would be a guarantee that you'd be on the flight to Tokyo. And that wasn't the case this year. But your consistency at national championships, once again, paid off. You were 3rd straight appearance on the podium. Question that I want to ask you is, do you consider yourself more of a time trialer or more of a championship racer? We've talked about both quite a bit here. Obviously, you've been chasing those times all season and putting yourself in races where everyone's just getting in a line and flooring it. Is that the type of race that you love, or do you prefer something that's a little bit more cagey, a little bit more tactical? What's your kind of ideal setup for the perfect 1500 meter race?
I think going into the season, I would have said that I'm a little bit more of a time trialer, because that is, you know, last year I ran my 406 PB in a time trial style race, and I have run very fast times in kind of that setup. You have a pacer, you have one other person, they drag you to a fast time, and that did happen in the first European race that I did, where I ran a 3.5 second PB. But no, I do think that I'm kind of getting much better at the championship style races, and I am growing an appreciation for it because it is a lot more fun. Not even like as a spectator, it's obviously a lot more fun to watch that kind of race. And it's also a lot more fun as a competitor. You know, you get to the last 300 and every single person is there, and it's like, who's gonna max out their speed and get to the end first? I do kind of hope that it is that kind of race, but also when you have so many women who are running sub 4, you know, my PB is 402 high, you know, it could be a fast race off the bat. I think that it's going to be so tough to know, but I do hope it's a sit and kick.
Yeah. Let's save the fast time for the final once you've made it in, and then we go for the sub 4.
Absolutely. Sign me up.
Okay, what's been your favorite thing? I don't know how how long you've been in Japan for, but what's been your favorite thing you've seen since getting to training camp?
Oh gosh, I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff. We're in Gifu right now, which is a cute little town outside of Nagoya, I think, is like a major city in Japan. Honestly, there hasn't been anything particularly cool that I've seen. But the people here, I will say, are like the kindest people I have ever met. Everyone is so friendly. I took a train into Nagoya yesterday, and I was aimlessly walking around the train station trying to figure out what subway to take, and eventually asked for directions. And this woman that I asked didn't speak any English. I just kind of showed her on my phone where I was trying to go, and I was expecting her to point in the direction of the train, and she walked me, you know, up the escalators, down the hall, down another flight of stairs, and she's like, "This is the train you take." It's like everyone that you meet is so kind and so willing to help. That's been the highlight of Japan for me. The people are awesome.
Yeah, the hospitality is really next level there, isn't it? What
100%.
leads us into our next question? What's the most exciting sort of storylines you're looking forward to? At these World Championships. I mean, I know you're obviously mostly focused on your race, but is there any other athletes on the team that you're really that you're excited for to see compete, or any international athletes that you're fans of?
Yeah, anybody turning heads at the Gifu Athletics Canada training camp right now, without
Well,
revealing too many trade secrets.
it's so fun being at these camps and getting to meet everyone and kind of seeing what everyone's goals are. But I think for me, I don't know if it's just me, but I think that having four men in the 800 is so exciting. I don't think Canada has ever had the opportunity to send four people. Like, thank you to Marco for the wild card, but all of those, the other three stepping up and smashing standard near the end of the qualifying period, I think is super amazing. So I am really excited to see how that plays out. Trying to think what else. I'm really excited for the women's 4x1. I'm pretty sure they're ranked 7th right now, but they're looking spicy, and I think that they could come away with a medal, which would be really cool. Yeah, it is really exciting seeing everyone training and seeing, the time trials. They did the time trials for the mixed relay yesterday, and gosh, it's so stressful.
Oh my gosh.
But I am really excited for all of the relays, honestly.
It's an interesting mix at these pre-championship holding camps. It's a mixture of everybody's there to support one another as long as they're not in the relay pool, and then it's like a death match final,
Oh
like
man,
no
it's so
holds barred,
cutthroat.
and it's makes me glad, I guess, that I was never had the wheels to be considered for a relay at any level, let alone at the World Championship level, because it just seems like an incredible amount of stress to add on top of preparing for your own individual events.
Yeah, it's so funny because they're all so supportive and like best friends, and then you come to the time trial day and it's just you want to win so bad and it's so cutthroat, but it doesn't go past time trial or race day, which is it's a nice dynamic.
For sure.
Wow. What is your final week here just like kind of look like? Is it just mostly getting on the time zone, getting acclimated with the weather?
Yeah, so I have one more workout in Gifu tonight, and then I head to Tokyo tomorrow actually. We're taking the train in, and then we get settled in Tokyo. I got here on the 3rd, so I've been here almost a week now. Um, Pretty well adjusted to the time. Um, and so yeah, we head to Tokyo tomorrow, and then 2 days in Tokyo before the heats on Saturday evening.
Speaking of the heats, bit of clever wordplay here on my part. I apologize. You said you're adjusted to the time. How are you adjusting to the heat and the humidity? I remember my own experience there just being brutal. Like, easy runs no longer felt easy at any point. Has that been your experience as well? How have you dealt with the stifling heat and humidity of a Japanese summer?
Yeah, the heat hasn't been too bad. I mean, it's hot, it's 30 plus degrees, but it's the humidity that's really been killing me. Like, I was doing sauna training before I came into Japan. I was doing, 30 minutes in whatever, like 70 to 80 degree sauna, and that was fine. I think that did help prepare me, but it's the humidity. You step outside and it's like you can feel the heaviness of the air. So easy, yeah, like you said, easy runs do not feel very easy. And I am a very, very slow easy runner. And so I've been running with the other Canadian teammates and running faster than I normally would at home. Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. It's
Hotter and
way too
faster.
hard. Yeah,
What's
yeah, hotter and
what does
faster.
the slow easy run mean to you?
Yeah, our listeners
Honestly,
Yeah,
are
right.
dying to know.
I am
I'm
like,
asking from the recreational side here.
oh, 5 minute Ks aren't uncommon in my easy runs. I think the fastest I would do on an easy run is like in the 440s. So yeah, anywhere from like 440 to 5:0 something would be my typical easy run pace. Um, yeah.
And how about you mentioned you've got your final workout, final prep workout, and if this is a trade secret between you and your coach, no pressure to divulge, but obviously you're not jogging 440 kilometers this evening prepping for a world championship qualifying round. What are some of the details? What's the final session
Yeah,
before you take that train into Tokyo?
it's quite a taper session. I would typically do it, if I race Saturday, I would typically do it Wednesday, but I wanted to get it done before the travel day, which is why we're doing it Tuesday. There are no trade secrets in my coach's program. He's like very open and transparent. It's 5 minute tempo. I usually do this in not lane one, so I generally don't even know what pace it is. It's probably around 3:30 per K if I had to guess, if I had to put a number on it. And then it's a 400, a 300, and 4 200s, where the 4 and the 3 are at race pace, and then the 200s are a little bit snappier, but it's not like I'm not
How
ripping
snappy are we
27s.
talking here?
I'm not, it's like 29:30. Obviously
Pretty
not race
snappy
pace,
for
but
most of
not
our
like
listeners.
sprinting.
I want to touch a little bit on the coaching relationship. You are not a rarity, but in the minority on the Canadian national team in that you're still working with the same coach in the city that you went to university in. Take us through that relationship. You're a proud Western Mustang alum. You've been working with Coach Guy Schultz now for what, 6 years, 7, 8 years? How long's it been? Was that always the plan, was to stay in London post grad and keep working together?
Yeah, so Guy and I have been working together. We're going on year 10 actually, this fall. So I joined Western in 2016, and I've been coached by Guy ever since. When I transitioned post collegiate, I moved out west very briefly to Victoria, and I tried West Coast life for a little bit to switch it up, and then ultimately came back to London because it is a really good setup, and Guy and I have a phenomenal relationship, and yeah, it's been really nice. Being post collegiate with a university team is interesting because I do feel so old.
You keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I feel like an absolute grandma, but it is nice being around a university team because I think being in a professional setting would be a little bit more stressful. But yeah, being around the university guys really helps with training and, not having to do everything solo. London has a really good running community, and I love it there.
It's kind of interesting on the women's 1500 meter side how all three of you kind of came up through the U Sports level. I mean, it's something we don't really see much in international athletics, especially for Canada. Is a lot of people develop through the university level, but with Gabrielle, with Lucia, with yourself, all coming up through the U Sports level. What does that kind of say about kind of Canadian at the university level nowadays?
I'm so glad this came up because I absolutely love talking about this. I think that U Sports is so underrated for the long-term development of athletes. The majority of the national team on the female middle distance and distance side comes from U Sports, and I don't understand for the life of me why the NCAA is still so glorified. You do well in school, but will you have, these are all generalizations, but I do think that U Sports is far better in terms of the long-term development of athletes. I think that you're not in the same kind of pressure cooker situation as you are in the NCAA. We have in U Sports cross country and indoors that are part of university, and then you have the Canadian outdoor circuit versus NCAA. You have cross country, indoors, NCAA, outdoors, and then the open outdoor season after that. And I think that having so much going on competition wise in the NCAA does tend to lead to a lot of burnout and injury. And in U Sports, I think that there is a much bigger focus on kind of, at least at Western for me, it was a much bigger focus on performing in your, third, fourth, fifth years versus, you come into university, like coming out of the gate pretty hot in the NCAA and at least for Guy, it's his big, I don't know, not really a philosophy, but motto is like, first year is a transition year, and you're probably not going to run well. You know, you're adjusting to so many changes in your lifestyle, going into university, living on your own for the first time, cooking for yourself for the first time. Like, so much is new. And then to add the pressure of athletics on top of that is just a lot. So even like first and second year are just transition years. And then by third year, you're starting to figure things out. And fourth and fifth year, then you really start to progress. And I think that that is one of the bigger advantages of Canadian university running. There just is a lot more focus on kind of staying healthy and progressing naturally versus kind of forcing it, if that makes any sense.
Do you think the tide is changing sort of a little bit on Canadians heading down to the NCAA, especially now with, the NIL and all these rule changes with team size? Do you think a lot more Canadian high school students are looking at, okay, maybe I can succeed at the U Sports level?
I mean, I hope that that's the case. I think with all the NIL stuff coming up, that actually might have attracted some athletes to the NCAA originally, because it is flashy. You can go to an NCAA school and get sponsored. Like, that's really cool. But then with these roster limits, I do think that more Canadian athletes will stay in Canada. And I think hopefully seeing Canadian national team members who are coming out of U Sports, that might add to the appeal. If our women's 1500 all came out of U Sports, hey, that means
Must
I
be
can
doing
do it.
something right.
Yeah,
You're
for
obviously
sure.
a huge testament to that yourself. I want to go back to your university years a little bit, because this is really interesting, hopefully for some of our younger listeners who are maybe making some of those decisions for themselves. Did 2016 Kate Current ever have aspirations to be competing at the Olympic level, at the World Championship level? Or is that something that kind of grew organically over the course of your time at Western while you were pursuing a degree in engineering and a master's degree after that, and running was something that you did, but the U Sports system, like you say, does such a beautiful job of making sure that it's not the only thing that you're doing in university?
I went into university. I absolutely idolized, and still do idolize, Melissa Bishop. And I think that she is just the blueprint for what we should all aspire to be. And so I went into university and I was like, I want to follow Melissa Bishop's career. I want to, like, step for step, she ran the 600 in 132 in first year, 130, I want to do that. And so I did I wanted to be on national teams. That was kind of the goal. I had always said, once I make a national team, like, I'm happy, I'll quit running. And that obviously progressed a little.
It's
You
a
make
gateway
one.
drug.
It really is. You make one and you just want to keep going. But yeah, going into university, my goal athletically was to win U Sports. I think that was the big post-it note on the mirror type of goal for the majority of my university career. And as I got faster, I kind of realized that, in doing so, that could open up doors to make national teams. And so my first national team was supposed to be FISU cross country in 2020, which was canceled due to COVID. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, well, I guess we'll keep going. And then had to, transition into post-collegiate running to make my national team. But yeah, I think that goals definitely progress as you progress in the sport. And did I think in 2016 that I would be on the Paris 2024 Olympic team? Like, absolutely not. That sounds insane, coming in as a 210 800 runner. But it is pretty crazy to see how goals change as you fall in love with the sport even more and progress day after day.
What are you finding is the thing that you're loving most about the sport now that you are a full-time post-collegiate athlete? You're making those championship teams that you've been aspiring to. Your first team wasn't until 2023, so you had to wait a while after that initial COVID delay, but obviously something was keeping you coming out to the track in those interceding years. What is it that's continuing to motivate you in the sport now that you've reached that level that really is pretty darn near the top?
I think it's just really exciting and exhilarating and addicting seeing yourself improve week after week. I think that that's the thing that gets me hooked the most on running. It's like we do a lot of workouts that are similar year on year, so it's like I can compare Kate in 2025 versus Kate in 2024 and see that, I did this workout a few seconds faster per rep, and I think that's what gets me hooked. I'm like, well, how much faster can I go in the next one? And kind of being able to track the progression. And what keeps me going is like, I want to max myself out. I want to see how fast I can get. I want to go sub 4. I want to see, how close to that Canadian record can I get. And yeah, just I want to see how much I can get out of myself. I think that's the most exciting part about running.
What's the strategy for this Saturday to try and get the most out of yourself? Has it changed at all from past championships? Paris now, about 13 months ago. Were there things that stuck with you from that experience where you admitted that you were a little bit disappointed with the outcome that you're looking to do differently when you toe the line this weekend in Tokyo?
Yeah, it's always so hard going into championship races because they are so unpredictable. But I am going into these championships with a lot more international racing experience and kind of knowing that I can handle different styles of races. If it goes out at 4 flat pace, like I can hang. If it goes out at 4:10 and it comes down to a last 42-second 300, I can hang. And so just having that confidence that regardless of kind of the racing dynamic, I think I'm prepared, and knowing that generally it will come down to the last 100. I think that I'm going to approach it with just a little bit more patience than I did in Paris. I think that I went into my races in Paris and I was like, I need to be at the front of the pack. I need to be like ready with 800 meters to go. And I think when I did that, I just fried myself a little bit too early into the race. So yeah, being prepared for the back half of the race is the plan.
Totally, yeah. If you try and cover every move, there's a good chance you're not going to have anything left in the tank to cover the move, which, like you say, could be in the last 100 meters of the race. And yeah, that just comes with experience. We are so excited to watch you put that experience to the test this weekend, and hopefully progressing not just through the weekend, but all the way through to that final on Tuesday. It's this could be a very big, exciting week for you, and not only for you, but for the whole Canadian team. Marley, we've got a lot of storylines that we could be talking about, but as we touched on when we were recapping the Canadian National Championships, we're in a really special part of Canadian track and field history where we return a lot of reigning world champions to a world championship. Kate, you already mentioned it with Marco getting that world championship wildcard spot unlocked in the men's 800. What are some of the other storylines, Marley, that you're looking forward to from our Canadians in Tokyo this coming week?
Well, I think for the fact that we're heading in with 4 defending world champions is pretty exciting. With Pierce Lepage in the decathlon, Cameron Rogers and Ethan Katzberg and Marco Arop. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them to defend, right? And I think all 4 of them definitely have the capabilities of being right there on the podium once again. I'm really excited to see what Ethan and Cameron can do in the hammer throw circle this time around. It's been a bit of a different season for both of them. There's been a lot of other competition coming and competing up at their level. So I think, they're not going to have it as easy as it might have come maybe in Budapest with a lot of athletes. A lot of times when you're competing at a high level, it elevates other athletes around you to compete back at that level, right? And we've kind of seen that in the men's and women's hammer throw. American Brooke Anderson has the furthest throw in the world this year, just further than Cameron, but Cameron has 6 of the top 10 throws in the world this year. So I think it's going to come down to who's the best on that day. And similar to Ethan Katzberg, I mean, he's had a bit of a slower start to 2025, but Hungary's Ben Halatz has the longest throw in the world this year, and he's been beating Katzberg at some of the European competitions. So I'm excited for the hammer throw competition, and I'm also excited to see kind of what Marco does in the 800 alongside the 3 other Canadians he'll be competing with. I mean, as Kate alluded to earlier, we've never put, it doesn't matter any event, any World Championships, we've never sent a team of 4 Canadians to a World Championships in one event.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exciting to see kind of what happens. I mean, Matty Eriksson, I love his racing style. Every time he lines up, he races like it's his last race. He runs so hard. He runs aggressive, and I think the championship style of racing will benefit him, especially coming out of the NCAA. I mean, all the guys are out of the NCAA, but I think his experience at NCAA indoors and NCAA outdoors will really prepare him well for these rounds of World Championships. And Marco as well. I mean, it's going to be tough with the 800 this year. The field is just so deep. I think there's like 20 or so men that have run either 143.50 and under this season.
Yeah,
so,
15 guys under one, like in the 142s or quicker, which again, unprecedented. So, very exciting for Canada to have an unprecedented 4 men entering that event. But for better or for worse, it's also unprecedented on an international scale where every country is popping off in the 800. Kate, what's the sense been like within the Gifu training camp? To my knowledge, of those those reigning world champs that we've listed, at least a couple of them are there in Gifu. This is a really strong Canadian team. What's the mood? What's the energy like from within the walls of Athletics Canada's holding camp? Is there a sense that Canada's no longer just happy to be there?
Honestly, everyone seems so zen here. Everyone is very calm. It hasn't felt very stressful the last 2 camps that I went on. Maybe that was just because I was new to the whole training camp and team experience, but it seems just very calm, very peaceful right now. We're playing cards every night. Ethan loves to play his wizard, and we'll play until I don't know, like 9 or 9:30 every night. And obviously everyone's very focused on their training, but yeah, there is just this sense of peace within the team. Everyone seems very confident with what they're doing, I have noticed. It's like everyone has their routine down. Nobody's second guessing themselves. You're doing what's best for you, and that's exciting to see. I don't think we're missing Cameron here, but yeah, the others, everyone's just very confident with what they're doing, and that's really nice to see.
I feel like the rest of the team has to feed off of the confidence of some of those veterans. Speaking of veterans, of course, we'd be remiss not to mention Evan Dunphy. He's been a staple on every World Championship team going back as far as 2013 in Moscow, a full 12 years of making these World Championships. And despite a long career, this feels like probably his best chance ever at that elusive world title. He's been on the podium multiple times before, but it's tough. It's tough to outdo a world record performance earlier in the year in terms of setting yourself up for success at a World Championship. Marley, what are you looking for on the racewalk course from the face of Canadian racewalking, maybe the face of international racewalking at this point, Evan Dunphy?
Well, if you follow him on Twitter, I think he is definitely the voice of international race walking. He'll definitely argue for the sport. But he's a little bit prehistoric now. He's been on so many national teams and World Championships teams dating back to he might even be older than the youngest athlete on Team Canada. Been on national teams longer than the youngest athlete on Team Canada. But no, this year, honestly, Evan's been on another level. And what continues to amaze me with him is that he just continues to get better. He's like fine wine. He's continuing to get better at age. We saw it last year in Paris. He was sick going into it and still, placed top. I think he was top
still
6,
squeezed out.
or top 5, and he had the flu all week. And he had a rough go at the Olympics to his standard, but 6 months later he goes out and breaks the world record. This year with no Massimo Steno, who ended up breaking the world record after Dunphy, won't be competing for Italy, sadly. So I think this race is really Evans to lose, and I think he feels that way, and he's very confident going into it. And Tokyo is a place that he's had a lot of success before. I mean, flashback to 2021, he fought through that final couple K to win bronze for Canada in the race walk, right? So I think the 35K it's his distance, and it's something that it's the last time we'll actually see it at a world championship event, because they are going to be switching to the half marathon and marathon distances in 2027 and at the LA Games. So I think Evan thinks okay, this is my distance, and I want to win gold here. So it's definitely interesting, and I don't know if anyone's met him. I mean, Kate, you've probably talked to him a few times. He's very opinionated, one of the loudest guys in the room. Is Evan at camp? What's interactions with him been like?
Yeah, Evan has been at camp. He's one of the very few people on the team that I've noticed who will talk to absolutely anyone and everyone. I've noticed at meals, everyone kind of sticks to their own event group. The endurance sticks to themselves. The sprinters are kind of on their own. The jumpers do their own thing. Evan's everywhere. He talks to everyone. He really is a huge team player. And he did have, I think, his last key session this past weekend, and he said it was great. He felt phenomenal. It was better than the session that he did last year Olympics, before he had gotten sick. So I think he's in really good shape. He is, coming out. He's hunting this year. He's coming for that gold.
And very few people with the same level of attention to detail when it comes to those endurance events. There's nobody, I think, who obsesses more over their spreadsheets of how many milliliters of fluid and how many grams of carbohydrate they've gotten in a training session than Evan Dunphy. So if there's a way for him to engineer victory, I think he's getting close to cracking the perfect formula, and this could be the year. We talk about how he struggled last year with flu-like symptoms around the Olympics and didn't get the performance that he wanted. Someone else who is coming back from some disappointments is Pierce Lepage in the men's decathlon. He hasn't been a factor for most of the last year. Obviously had to withdraw just a few weeks prior to the Olympics last year with a nagging injury that forced him out of that competition, but he's back on that upward trend this year. He's the reigning world champion from Budapest in the decathlon and starting to round back into form. Marley, you've got some inside scoop from what you saw at the World Championship trials in Ottawa last month. Could we see a return to the podium in the men's decathlon between him and multiple-time international medalist Damian Warner?
I think it's a little weird to say, but I feel like, because obviously being a former world champion, especially the reigning world champion, you don't really come into this meet as an underdog. But I think for the fact that he wasn't in Paris last year, and, he hasn't been at Gotsis the past few years, so people just, it's not that they forgot about him, it's just like, I think he's coming in as an underdog to this meet. And he had a decent nationals, he threw well in the discus, he jumped well, and it's the biggest thing for Pierce, and I think he's fit. It's can he survive the 10 events? And I know it sounds really stupid to say, especially with the decathlon, because it is, it's whoever can be the best over the
it's
2
a war of
days,
attrition.
over the 10 events. Yeah. So I think if he can go out and put up a high score on day one and kind of hang with the new guns, Kyle Garland of the Team USA and Leo Nussbauer, who won silver last year. Behind
Skander Notheim of Norway.
Yeah. I think there's a real chance for him to be on that podium. I think that'd be a massive success for him. And I know Kate, you're probably close with Damian. You both train in London. I would love. I think Damian's one of the nicest people out there. He is the face of Canadian athletics, and it's so awesome to see that he's still so driven out there to be on Team Canada and be there and be competitive at these meets. And I'd love to see him break through, but all I want is I need Damian's body to hold up. I know he can be there. I know he's got the competitive drive to do that. Kate, Do you see him much training in London? How's he been looking over the past couple months?
He's got the talent, but he's got a lot of highway miles after 13 years of international competition. If you can put it together this weekend, it's tough to bet against that talent. But yeah, what have you seen on the ground in London or maybe on the ground in Gifu?
Yeah, it's weird. There aren't a whole lot of people training in London over the summer, but we still haven't overlapped all that many or very many times at all. I think it's only been a few times that I've seen him at the track or throwing, but no, he is looking good. He's healthy. He's fit. He was ripping speed endurance at the Western track a few weeks ago, and he looked phenomenal. I will say that. So it would be incredible to see two Canadians on that podium for the men's decathlon.
Yeah, we're again blessed with a couple of great options in both Warner and Lepage, and can they repeat what they did in Budapest 2 years ago? We'll have to wait and see. Shifting to some of the field events, decathlon being our bridge now onto the field events. We've talked about a couple of reigning world champions in the hammer throw. We enter with both reigning world champions, Ethan Katzberg and Cameron Rogers. Reigning indoor world champion twice over is Sarah Mitten, but the world stage, that outdoor international championship, has still eluded her. She didn't have the performance she wanted last year at the Tokyo Olympics. She's still chasing that golden moment outdoors when the lights are brightest. But she's coming into these world championships on an absolute heater this season. Marley, could this be the year we finally see her add that final missing piece to her collection?
Yeah, no, it's been quite heartbreak for Sarah Mitten. Last year in Paris, tough faults early, and then, a couple weeks later, she went ahead and won the Diamond League trophy, right? And this year, we all saw what happened in the Diamond League final this year in Zurich. I mean, that's got to be the most heartbreaking thing I've actually ever seen in the sport of track and field, where you hand someone the trophy and the money and the check, and you're like, oh yeah, sorry, we need that back because we forgot to call a foul on you a couple throws ago.
Yeah, just absolutely brutal. Obviously, it's going to hopefully roll off of her back. She's in a pretty enviable position where the Diamond League title probably isn't the one that she's chasing anymore. She's been there, done that. And yeah, it'll be a matter of seeing whether she can hold on to that Diamond League winning form. We all saw the throws that she was heaving, even if one of them was a little bit over the line, a little bit of a touch on the toe plate. We know what she's capable of, and she does have such a pedigree for these big moments. And yeah, that'll be an exciting capper to the Canadian medal count. Hopefully at the end of these championships, women's shot put goes off on the final Saturday. That's next Saturday, the 20th of September.
There's one thing I want to get into about the Gifu camp, and I don't know if this is top secret or not, or if Glenn Roy's maybe listening at the door of what we're talking about, but the big question going in is obviously every year everyone wants to care, or they're talking about is who is going to be on the men's 4x1 team. Oh. And what everyone's been seeing at camp. Kate, do you know what the team's sort of looking like so far, or maybe who's looking past
from
that
relay
camp?
Practice?
It's funny. I was actually joking with my roommate this morning that this would be a great opportunity to spread rumors about our men's 4x1 because everyone's going to want to know.
You heard it here first, folks.
In all honesty, I have absolutely no idea what's going on with the 4x1. They just had the time trials for the mixed 4x4 relay yesterday, and I believe that they're doing the same thing for the men's 4x1 later this week. Typically, they won't, if anyone is in the individual 100, they won't run the time trial. Chances are that would be used as their time trial for the relay based on how they look in their individual event. But yeah, last year they called it a time trial, but the men didn't run with each other, which I found very interesting. They did it on their own. So you kind of leave it up to hand timing a 100, which doesn't, I mean, what do
Glenroy
I
must
know
be
about
confident in
sprints?
his trigger
But
finger.
yeah,
It is
I
a, it's
don't
a,
Yeah,
know
what's
much.
what's the wind reading on that?
yeah, it's an interesting proposition this year. Like you mentioned, Kate, if they're giving buys to the guys who are qualified in the individual 100, Jerome Blake is through, Andre DeGrasse is through. Those are two guys that we can safely assume are going to be locks for that 4x1 team, certainly in the final. But interesting questions start coming up when we start thinking about the aging core of Canada's historical men's 4x1 team. The last number of years, it's always been the quartet of Blake, DeGrasse, Aaron Brown, and Brendan Rodney. Aaron Brown qualified individually in the 200 this year, hasn't been running particularly quick over the 100 in his few attempts at the distance this year. And Brendan Rodney, we've seen very little from for the last several months. He is the team captain this year, an honor that's been a long time coming for someone who's a veteran of now 3 Olympic Games, multiple world championships. But we don't have a lot to go off of based on recent performances. And this is the year of some younger guys coming up. Just a couple of days ago, World Athletics announced that Eliezer Ajibe was added to the men's 100. He could factor. He's been in the relay pool before. And we said all of these names without even mentioning the reigning national champion in the 100, Duan Asamoah. And there's just so many names swirling. Marley, what's your gut instinct? Who do you think's getting the nod?
It's going to be really hard to take Aaron Brown off of the starting leg, I think, just because he's one of the best starters in the world. And I mean, that's the key in a relay is you want like his reaction time is world class, and it's going to be if one of the best, if not one of the best in the world, maybe next to like Christian Coleman of the Team USA. So, and the thing is like, he's going to be handing it off to Jerome Blake, who's probably the fittest, if not, yeah, like the fastest, if not the fittest guy on the quartet right now. Mm-hmm. So if there is a position that I think that might be up for grabs or change, it is that third kind of bend spot that's going to pass it off to Andre DeGrasse. I mean, Andre DeGrasse has famously said, if you give me the baton and in the lead, I'm not losing it. So
yeah, there's no way, I don't think any of us see Andre being given anything but that final home stretch slot. So it does come down to that bend. And Brendan Rodney, I mean, he's more of a 200 guy. He's always run a phenomenal bend. He really put Canada back in the race at the Olympics last summer, where they stormed to that glorious gold medal. The other two guys that we've mentioned, both more 100-meter specialists. So if they get slotted in, do they risk it on a bend, or do they move Blake to the third leg after his first sub-20 clocking? He's proven he can run a good bend in the 200. A lot of moving pieces. I certainly don't envy the position that Glenroy Gilbert and the rest of the national team relay coaching staff has in front of them in terms of decisions.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough job.
The starting list did come out for the World Championships, and I don't think Aaron's name was in the pool for the 4x1. I might be wrong about that, but they listed.
So I looked into this. I looked into this, and it was a World Athletics error. So he is in the pool.
I was like, that's crazy.
Sigh of relief.
I was about to write a story, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, Aaron Brown not on the team? Like what?
I'm so glad that you looked into this, because I saw that and I was like, this is crazy.
We must have found out in the West before they did. You need to go spread the word to the team, Kate. Everybody's probably
tell Aaron, let her know.
Yeah, you should go find him. Knock on his hotel room door.
Yeah, I assume he knows. I mean, Kate, you kind of talked about this earlier, and I think this is kind of leads in our next conversation a little bit, but some of the biggest dark horses or surprising performances at these games. You talked about the women's 4x1 team. I mean, they reached the final last year in Paris. It's a really young squad, and you see a lot of ladies that are just keeps getting faster and faster this season. And it just seems the more time they are having to practice with one another, the better they're getting. And I mean, we saw it at World Relays earlier this year, where they were in the final, were super competitive. I think did they get a medal?
The mixed 4x1, they did get a medal. Seventh in the women's one, but 2 Canadian records have gone down in the women's 100 already. Audrey Leduc and Sade McCreath have exchanged blows all season this year and collectively brought the record down into the mid-10.9s. So we've got the blessing of the 2 fastest Canadians in history over the flat 100 meter, and a quartet that, like you mentioned, Marley, is very young, but at that very steep portion of their experience curve right now, where every time they get that team together, they're multiplying their collective experience by a huge amount. Contrast that with our men's 4x1, where they're kind of nearing the end of the life cycle of that core four. It could be that we're entering the beginning of a new life cycle on the women's 4x1, and how great would that be for Canada to have a little bit of company for the men in the 4x1 relay. It's such an exciting event, and we've got some very charismatic athletes on the women's side as well, rounding out that team. Jacqueline Madogo and Mary-Eloise Leclerc could be their year to shine the spotlight on themselves, maybe pull it away from the men.
Yeah, I'm definitely very excited for the 4x1. I think that's one of they are definitely kind of underdogs going into this, but between Shade and Audrey, I think they're going to be hauling ass, and they're going to be coming out of the gate flying, so that it's going to be one of the most anticipated events for me for the championships.
Audrey always seems like someone who's like super locked in. Hey, do you interact? Have you interacted with her for a little bit at training camp here? It seems like she's super serious, super locked in all the time. I know she's also someone that came up through the U Sports level and had massive success at the University of Laval before, making the Paris team last year. It seems like she's just got that killer instinct. Is that sort of the vibe that she kind of just like walks around training camp, or is she a little bit more lighthearted?
That's the vibe I get from her. I haven't interacted with her all that many times, but she's definitely locked in at all times of the day, it seems. That might just be her neutral expression is just pure focus, but she'll be at the meal hall. Pure focus. It's the same thing. It's the same
Locked
expression. It's the same demeanor at meals as it is at the track. So
you got to practice what you preach, I guess. If you're as serious about training, you got to be serious about eating too. One more storyline that we haven't touched on yet when we talk about some of the headliners for Canada and some returning world medalists is Mo Ahmed. There's been some question marks around him this year. Marley, you were on hand at the Canadian Championships where he was unfortunately forced to withdraw from the 5,000 meter with a calf strain. You got a little bit of an inside scoop on what was going on there, and maybe a bit of insight into the type of form or momentum that he's entering these world championships with in the 5,000 and 10,000.
Yeah, I mean, these world champions come kind of at a unique time in Mo's career. I mean, he's going to be 35 later this year. A lot of disappointment in Paris. I mean, the 10,000 was one of the best races I've ever seen him race in his life, but he came up, just seconds short of a medal.
Fourth place.
And then in the 5K, he fell, maybe eight laps in, tripped up, wasn't able to continue. And then come around to nationals this year, he's just made a move on the final lap to kind of put himself in contention, and his kind of calf seized up. And when that happens, sort of 6 weeks out from a major event like this, that's the time where you're like trying to really lock in your training, right? From what I heard, it was pretty minor. It was just probably sort of a grade 1 in between a grade 1, grade 2 calf strain. So I don't know if he just took a few weeks off and getting back to it, but I think either way, there's got to be a thought in the back of your head. It's like, well, I haven't been able to prep as much as these other guys. I do think because of that, the 10,000 will suit his strengths a little bit more. It will probably, like Kate alluded to it earlier, it's going to be super hot. It doesn't matter if you're running at 9 a.m. in the morning or 9 p.m. at night. It's going to be a humid race, and the distance that's going to affect the most is definitely going to be those 5K and 10K events on the track. And I think it's going to be a slow tactical race, and there's an athlete like Ahmed who can really gradually kind of build up with speed will be well suited for that. And I think with a lot of major players out in the 10,000 this year, like if you look at Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei and Jacob Kiplimo, both opting to do marathons later on in this fall, and obviously Jakob Ingebrigtsen only doing the 5 and 15, not going for the 10. The 10,000 is pretty open. I mean, he's going to have his former teammate and fellow Canadian who competes for America, Grant Fisher, to compete against. But I think the other podium spots are pretty open. There's obviously Ethiopia is going to be sending a really stacked team, but I think there's a spot for Ahmed there if he can be there with a few laps to go. In the 5,000, unfortunately, I hate to say it, and I've told him this face to face, is just like it's an event you got to move on from. It's become the 5,000 has become a 1,500. And it's just the championship style racing it is. It'll go out slow, it'll go out tactical for first 2K, and it'll just wind it up. And that's the thing that makes an athlete like Jakob Ingebrigtsen so good, is he's mastered the 3K.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to championship racing, he's able to drop, 7:45 3K after opening up in, like a 4:30, 4:40 mile.
Mm-hmm.
So it's changed quite a bit, and I think to be able to contend in the 5K is that you need to have a 1,500 meter time in that low 330s or sub 330 to really be there on the podium. I mean, we saw it last year in Paris where Jakob was able to run away with it easily in the final few laps.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Mo stands a chance in the 5K, and thankfully the 5K is later in the discipline. But I think this might be his last shot really at not only competing for Canada, but competing for a chance to win a medal. So the stakes are pretty high.
Stakes are high, and I always come back to this. Still searching for that first international 10,000 meter medal. He might push back on what you said about the 5K, given his track record with Olympic and World Championship medals in the 5,000. But like you say, it is becoming tactical again. We saw it go through that run and gun era, and now it seems like it is going back into the hands of the milers and the 1,500 guys, and it might be pushing Mo back up towards the 10,000, which was his first love. He was a NCAA champion at the distance, and he's been so close on so many occasions at the 10,000. You get the sense that that's the medal that he really wants to add to the collection, and this could be the time for it. This track is one that was very good to him 4 years ago at the Olympics, where he snagged that incredible silver, and the only man that beat him there, Joshua Cheptegei, who, as we mentioned, not racing this Saturday night in the 10,000 meter, electing for a marathon later in the fall. So Mo enters with certainly the pedigree and far more experience than anybody else in that 10,000 field. That could be his best bid to finally add it to the collection.
I was just going to add that I do think that the weather here is going to play is going to be a major factor in how the race plays out. I was talking to Natasha Wodak about this, because she was saying when she competed a few years ago, she was passing people in the second half that had PBs multiple minutes faster than her. And I think in the longer distances, the weather, the heat is going to shake up the races completely. It is going to come down to who is more of a grinder, who's smarter. And I think that will help Mo, and I think that would help him in a 5K too. So I wouldn't scratch his name off the list quite yet.
I love that take.
Yeah, well, it does add a layer of depth to the races, and you can see the 35 degrees on paper with 80% humidity, but until you feel it, my gosh, I don't think you get a full sense of how much the heat and the weather is going to impact these races, especially in the longer distances.
John, you ran there, 4 years ago, around the same time of year. Was it kind of like that, in the final of the 3,000 meter steeplechase, where it just got super hot, super quick, and it just immediately felt like you were just in a sauna?
Kate and I talked a little bit off air before we got on this call about, in distances like the steeplechase and certainly the 1,500, I would actually argue that it's less so about the race itself, and it's more about managing your heat in the hours leading up to it. Like Kate mentioned, you can't really appreciate the heat and the humidity, and for me at least, the intensity of the sun, until you're there and experiencing it firsthand. And it's all of the little things. It's kind of a death by 1,000 cuts. The walk to the bus when you're in your tights and your warm-ups, and the sitting in a tent waiting to go into the call room. All of those little moments I found were where races were being won and lost. And to go back to Mo, he's just got so much experience at this level. We've talked already about how he's medaled in this very stadium, on this very track. And like Kate mentioned, I think that it is going to be for the gamers, for the people who prepare for those X factor variables like the heat and the humidity that have a real chance of outperforming their peers. And I mean, there's been some flashy names. Certainly the US is bringing a stacked contingent on the men's 5,000 team, but for the most part, they're young and they lack that same experience that Mo has. And he's put in so many miles, so many reps at this global level that he's ready for the pressure cooker. And I think that could be the difference for him and for many other athletes, is the ability to perform under pressure and to maybe put the ego aside enough to respect the conditions. So yeah, I would hate to ever bet against Mo Ahmed. He's the best runner we've ever produced on the men's side for a reason, and I think that he has plenty more still to write at these world championships.
Yeah, there's no debate he's the GOAT for sure. When the time comes where he does hang up the spikes, I don't think there'll be any debate about that. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm super excited for the weekend. I imagine you are, John, and Kate.
Hopefully even more excited than we are. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's been so awesome taking the time to hear all of your inside scoops on the rest of the team and on your own training as you head into these championships. And again, congratulations on what has been a phenomenal season up to this point, Kate. We will be watching very closely this weekend, cheering you and the rest of the Canadian national team on in Tokyo. Those championships get underway this Saturday, September 13th. You can tune into Canadian Running for all the inside scoops, and we'll keep our source on the ground, Kate Current, plugged in with any more hot takes that might come your way from the final days of the Gifu holding camp. But if we don't hear from you before the championships, very best of luck to you, and go out there and do us all proud.
Yeah, we expect the men's 4x1 order the minute you hear, all right?
Yeah, just an anonymous text.
I'm kidding.
We just need to know the 4 that are going to start. We don't need to know the order. That's asking too much. Best of luck, Kate. Safe travels to Tokyo.
Thank you, Kate, for joining us. It's been awesome.
Thanks so much, guys.
Another huge thank you to Kate and Marley for joining this week's episode. You can follow them on Instagram at Kate_Current and at Marley Dickinson. The World Championships in Athletics kick off this Saturday, September 13th in Tokyo. Kate's championship journey begins that same day with the women's 1,500-meter qualifying round, 6:50 a.m. Eastern, 3:50 Pacific. Make sure to follow Canadian Running at Canadian Running on Instagram and runningmagazine.ca for all of the real-time updates, headlines, and interviews from the stars of track and field during this, the biggest week of track of the year. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Shakeout Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any of the exciting episodes coming up in the weeks ahead. I'm your host, John Gay, saying thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon for your next Shakeout.